All right. Well, we're back once again. Level Up Grappling Podcast. Coach Bryan here, straight out of PCI Jiu-Jitsu, Mission Viejo, California. We got some fights to talk about. Boy, let me tell you, UFC 320 was absolutely stacked. So we'll talk about the co-main and the main event because those were really, in my opinion, the highlights of the evening. And, we don't have the time to talk about everybody. But before we get into Merab and Sandhagen, I want to backtrack before we actually talk about the fight. Is we need to talk about Merab's statement that he made at his interview. And it was very, very interesting, and it's going to flow into, I don't want to say my criticism, but my analysis of his certain setups, which is he mentioned, I'm not a freestyle wrestler. And I was thinking about Adam as he was saying this. He's like, I'm not a freestyle wrestler. I'm a judoka. People don't know that I'm a judoka, that when I came to the United States, I had to learn how to wrestle and I had to learn boxing. And he's like, so I'm just trying to pick it up the last few years. I'm just trying to pick this up and trying to figure out how to put my game together. And my game is evolving. Mm-hmm. But I am not, basically, I'm not a wrestler. His wrestling was on point, but it's interesting that he wanted to emphasize the fact of the matter that he's not a wrestler. He's using really good MMA wrestling, but he's a judoka. And you see that a lot of times in his setups. The way he takes his underhooks and the way he turns his hips over is very much judo. Very judo. His positioning on the ground, very judo. At the end of the fourth round, now see I'm working back chronologically. At the end of the fourth round, he had a beautiful 3/4 Nelson setup. They're like going, stars. I'm like, hold on, he's just setting up a 3/4 Nelson.
Yeah.
But his positioning was really something else. I think they said that this particular fight was the most takedowns he had in the championship fight. I think they said he had, I could be
20,
wrong. So
20 takedowns.
It was over 20.
He just set the record.
It was like 20 or 29. So
20. He's second to Habib now in one fight. So Habib did 21. He did 20 last night.
Jesus Christ.
He did 20. And look, is he a judoka? Yes, absolutely he is. Can he wrestle? Yes. Is he a freestyle wrestler? No. But let's not forget, he was the combat sambo silver medalist in the Worlds. Yeah? Like a lot of the Dagestani guys and a lot of the guys from Russia, and they can all wrestle. It's part of sambo. If you're learning sambo, you can wrestle. Yeah, freestyle wrestling is part of sambo. Yeah, a lot of the same takedowns that we do in freestyle wrestling, they do in sambo. Yeah, it's not just that he's a judo black belt. He's a purple belt in jiu-jitsu, but he's also a silver medalist at the Combat Sambo Worlds. He only lost to one of the Russians. And he also started his martial arts journey in traditional Georgian wrestling.
Judoba. Yeah, and also in Georgia, it's quite common for the judokas to train a bit of Greco during the summer, more of like just to get the movement on the throws, especially the twisting motion. But I think Chidoba is actually the real key to him, and I think Chidoba has direct carryover into Sambo, because although Sambo is a lot of judo and stuff, by far Chidoba is one of the most influential arts there, and even the founders of Sambo, when they analyze judo's throws and the little nuances from Chidoba compared to judo, they much preferred the way that Chidoba does it. And I think this has a lot to do with it. I wouldn't be surprised if he did a lot of Greco, not a lot, but every summer between judo practices or judo seasons. But I think Adam's spot on. I think in the end of the day, people underestimate, or they don't really understand what Sambo is. And Sambo really has a lot of elements of freestyle wrestling in it. Even if it isn't freestyle wrestling, there's a lot of elements in terms of how they lower position, how they attack the leg. Yeah, I agree with Adam there.
Walk us through the style variance that makes Chidoba. Like, what is it about that style?
What are like the
that
defining
is
features of it?
So,
yeah.
Chidoba is much older than judo. Okay, Chidoba basically had several martial arts that came from Georgia. Chidoba is one of the grappling arts. What makes it interesting is the fact, first of all, I forgot the name of the gi or the kimono they wear, but the kimono has very short sleeves, and because of this, a lot of the grips are much different in Chidoba. Second of all, they from what I know and I've seen, and I've done a little bit of Chidoba with some of my Georgian friends, attacking the legs is no issue, right? And it's a very power-oriented, but very technical style. Now, do you know a move called in judo called the Haribeli? So there was a Georgian, Shota Haribeli, who won, I believe it was 2 Olympic judo gold medals. And what he did is, do you know Vlad Kulikov had the Georgian grip when he went around?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So the Haribeli basically is that, okay? Maybe with a little nuances compared to how maybe Vlad does it. So he was winning a lot of the international competitions through this. And actually, prior to the change in judo's rules, basically more or less kind of 2 schools of judo that were dominating. One was the Japanese school, and the second was the Russian school. But the Russian school of judo is incredibly influenced by Georgian judo. In fact, a lot of Russians' martial arts, and even I'll give you an example how dominant the Georgians are. The USSR's most technical freestyle wrestler, Levan Teriashvili, Georgian. If you look at the Buvasar Saitiev's coach, as well as Yerigin, the great Yerigin, their coach, Dmitry Mindiashvili, he's Georgian. The Georgians have got it in their blood. They're a mountainous people. They've been fighting off. They're a Christian nation in the middle of. It wasn't. It's not religious, but you have to understand. There's a lot of war in that area of the Kafkaz, the Caucasus. But Georgia specifically, I mean, on one side they got Russia, on the other side they have Turkey, and on another side, okay, yes, there's Armenia and there's obviously Azerbaijan, but you have the Iranians and the Persian Empire. Add on top of it, I think it's the Sassanids from the Arab conquests, Mongolians. These guys have been fighting their whole life. On top of that, the ethno it's like, I wouldn't say it's homogenous as an ethnic culture, but it is kind of landlocked, a bit like Albanians. Albanians have a very distinct culture. So do the Georgians. On top of that, these guys run up mountains all day. They have incredible diet. I mean, Georgia's known for its food, especially its vegetables. You can throw anything, and you have the best fruits and vegetables. They have a lot of these spring waters that develop, and there's a lot of minerals, etc. They have areas of Georgia that have a lot of centenarians. They also have areas of Georgia that they don't, because they're drinking a lot of cha-cha. Cha-cha is kind of like their moonshine, I guess you would say. It's one of the oldest wine countries. This is a very old country. I think it might be the second oldest Christian country in the world after Armenia, I believe. Now, you take all this and their culture and even their language, there's nothing really like it so much. And yes, they are Caucasian. Yes, they are similar to other Caucasian countries, especially or regions, especially Ossetia. And even there's, they had the Ossetian War, where basically part of Georgia was taken back by Russia. Some people say taken back, Georgia say taken from. I don't want to get into that. But Chidoba, and they also have, I think, 2 other martial arts, which I apologize, I can't remember off the top of my head. But they have a lot of martial arts in that area, and they've been fighting. And what makes Chidoba very interesting is that every single boy in Georgia practices Chidoba, and they look at like almost like a knighthood. it's very well, has extremely amazing techniques from very, you can even see it kind of in Merab. I doubt he would say he does Chido, but there's no doubt he did Chido. If he did judo, and actually the Georgian judo, I'll give you an example. I got a very close friend who he's the ground coach for one of the top judo Olympic judo teams in the world. Okay, he's a Brazilian guy. The guy's a killer. He goes to Georgia all the time, partially because he absolutely loves the country and the training's good. But we talk about it all the time, and he says, "Listen, Josh, they're not really doing judo. They're doing chiraoba and just putting it to judo. And behind doors when they talk, there is this pride of it. And you can see it in their judo. The Georgian judo is quite different compared to, even if you looked at Azerbaijan, like judo from Azerbaijan, or judo even from like Russia, there is a similarity, or judo from Turkey. I'm giving countries that are similar, even Iran. These are very strong judo countries, but Georgia specifically has specific grips and specific movements. And it really it is, in terms of the grappling world, it really is a place that should be studied more. And I think that Merab specifically, he has this, and I think if you look at a lot of his positioning, so what does he do? He comes in very linear. The pressure's coming. But what he gets you by doing that is someone will throw, and you see he's almost loose, and he lets his hands fall wherever they go. Sometimes they're orthodox positions, sometimes they're not orthodox positions. But wherever he lets his hands go, he's always comfortable. And you see he always can get his hips into line, his hips under the guy, and then he throws. And it's a little bit different than when you see with, for example, like Khamzat, who comes from a freestyle wrestling background. And I do agree with you. I think that Merab's movement is much more akin to definitely a judoka or a Greco wrestler, but I wouldn't say judoka. And I believe that in the end of the day, the baseline of it, just subconsciously, and Merab, if you're listening to this, I'm sorry if I got it wrong. By the way, I have a very good friend who trained with you in Azerbaijan, Tariel, if you know him, say hi for him. But Merab, I think the underline of it is still Chidoba. And Chidoba is, by the way, it's if I believe it's a UNESCO World Heritage cultural thing.
That's right.
It's in the soul of the Georgian people. And I don't know if you ever met Georgians. Like we have a lot of Georgians where I live. There was a large community of my people in Georgia. In fact, my grandma's brother lived in Georgia, died in Georgia, etc. She lived a long time in Georgia, etc. And I have some Georgian family, etc. But I'm not Georgian. Georgians, if I were to explain what they are, they're real men's men. They're really go-getters. Like if they fall down, they're up before anyone else. They are incredibly strong. If you like, it's 3 million people, okay, and yet in freestyle wrestling, they produce some of the best wrestlers of all, and they've influenced some of the best wrestling programs of all time. Now, of course, the Russian wrestling program isn't Georgian; it's Soviet, but there was a lot of influence from Georgian wrestling in there. The judo program of Georgia, they're able to compete, maybe not the top 1 or 2. But they're always dangerous, and they're always when they're going against a Georgian, they know it's going to be a tough match. Rugby, and Adam will know this. They're not Australia, but you know what? They're in the tier 1 countries, maybe at the bottom, but every couple of years they're getting better and better, and they're fearless. And you take these people, arm wrestling, Levan Teriashvili. The guy destroys Devin Larat. Now, of course, Levan's a super heavyweight. Devin Larat's a heavy or like a weight class under. But these are very special people. It's almost like they were built for testosterone. I mean, their diet, a lot of lamb, a lot of fat cheese, a lot of great vegetables, that mineral water, borjumi for all Georgians who know it. It tastes delicious. You have this all. And even their Orthodox Christianity that they have, it's a real old hardcore. Everything they have is hardcore. And I'll tell you what I think about Georgians. There is no middle. Either they can, and this is about most Caucasian, like Caucasians. Either they can be your best friend. You'll never have a better friend in your life than this, or they'll be your worst enemy. There's no middle. It's like a pit bull. And I think that's what Merab is. If you look at Merab, he's like, you saw Joe Rogan. He kept on saying one word, relentless, relentless. He got that right. The guy's relentless, but there is some intelligence to this. It isn't just relentless. Merab is a very smart fighter. He's always changing his rhythm. He's always changing his footwork. He's reading the guy. He doesn't mind. I don't know if he likes to get hit, but he doesn't mind, because as long as he gets hit, he gets his hands in a position, and from there he immediately can work in unorthodox grips that people don't know. And you see Corey Sandhagen, the time when he actually got some, and I think it was either the fourth or fifth round, when he started to get some hits in, was when he started to actually start moving forward on Merab. Okay,
Yep.
which is dangerous, because all of a sudden Merab can catch you, right? Now, does Merab have the same freestyle wrestling as let's say, I'm trying to actually think, like Khamzat? No, I don't think. I don't think these are different levels of freestyle wrestling. But grappling wise, and grappling for MMA, and his game plan, and I think also Matt Longo. I think having Longo as a striking coach, I think there is a little bit of that JKD element, and I'll explain to you why. I was noticing he's always kind of using like a Randy Couture. He's trying to get the guy to hit off of his elbow, and there's some elements there. His game plan is smart. It isn't just relentless. It's relentless with a high IQ. But Chidoba, amazing. Very few grips, very, very hard match. It's basically a one fall match generally, but it isn't. You actually go for points. There's been guys from the US who are killer wrestlers, killer sambo guys. They go to Chidoba, and you see he'll look like the biggest fat guy who's eating chachipuris. By the way, chachipuri is absolutely delicious. If you can try some. It's delicious. And these fat guys throw this big muscle guy who's on, let's say, the cherry juice, if you know what I mean. And you wonder, what is this? But they throw them also with technique.
Yeah.
They get that grip. It's fighting for that grip is relentless. And I bet you after, if you fought like a man, they're going to say, hey, come over for kababi and khachipuri and khinkali. Okay, brother. And that's it, But yeah, I think it needs to be there. In the Caucasus, it's definitely... Dagestan is the freestyle wrestling capital. There's no one. Ossetia too. You can even say it's about there. Georgia also. Maybe a little bit here, maybe a little bit more. Depends on the years. If you look at Soviet history, because in the Soviet Union, Dagestan, until Ali Aliyev came, and then there was... I always forget. He has the hardest name, and he has no nose because it was punched in. He's actually he's Maga, who we do the Brian, we do the it's his family. But until then, Dagestan really wasn't a wrestling country, and actually Dagestan did have its own folk wrestling styles, and it does, because not just with the Avars, you have the Lezgins, you have all the each little culture had in, because they're all like little tribes, and
they were all mountainous people.
Yeah, all mountain-based people. But the system that Dagestan uses isn't it the Dagestani wrestling system. It's the Soviet wrestling system with the Dagestani flair and passion in it. And they probably have a lot of that folk wrestling in the beginning there. But Georgia's a different animal. And it needs to be... Oh, by the way, the best Olympic weightlifter who has all the records of all time, a beard, looks kind of a baby face, Georgian. It needs to be studied, and it's not one of these things that will be studied from CrossFitters and then they'll make it into like a new workout. It needs to be studied because there's a whole aspect to this, because there's another thing that, and you'll see it in Merab, you see it also in Ilya, but especially Merab, they have this mentality, and that mentality was able to beat Nurmagomedov. It was a mentality, it was that forcing. And all this needs to there. But I think technically it all's underlined in Chidoba. And I think Chidoba, it has its own musical instruments for the rhythm of the fight. It's on sand. There are different areas. There's a general rule set, but there's different areas that have little rules. Some rule sets to say if you go onto a knee. Some will say you have to get onto your back. Some will be you have to get off onto two. If you got off onto two limbs. But still, all these styles are great. And guess what? The people doing them, a lot of the times they're just shepherds. I'm not saying just, because to be a shepherd's great. but they're shepherds and they're people. They're like salt of the earth people, you know. And they go back. It's like they asked a guy. There was a Georgian guy. Oh, my memory's so bad ever since this surgery. But there was a Georgian guy. I remember his name. But he was always going for Teddy Riner. Okay, and in the Olympics, he was the guy who, when Teddy Riner took him down, and then Teddy was going, again, he kind of went to Teddy to like hit him, but he didn't. They ask him, so what kind of music do you listen to? And every other person answers, oh, I like David Guetta, I like pizza. Georgians are like, no, man, I like my folk style music. You know, I like my Georgian food. They're very, very there. And it's almost like an old mentality that hasn't been ruined by social media. It hasn't been ruined by this thing of, I got to try everything. They just say Georgian works, that's it. And they have a pride and a mentality.
Georgian
But
pride, Georgian pride.
I have a T-shirt that says Hachipuri Power. And I made it because it's a joke I always had with my Georgian friends. I said, guys, when you eat that Hachipuri, it'll tap you out. It's so heavy. But it's everything. Now, Chido, but what's interesting about it? You'll see a lot of moves that you see in judo, but they don't have, first of all, the lower pants of the judoka. It's generally with shorts. So you get used to the grip on leg of that. Even if they go around in a grapevine, okay? The obviv in Russian, or in Sambo, as you would know, the obviv throw. They're doing it on sweat, okay? Second, arms like this. All of a sudden, you have no gripping, but it makes such an amazing sport. It's like this. I'll tell you what it is. You take a Dutch kickboxer, same weight as Floyd Mayweather, okay? Now, obviously, both have their pros and cons, but the interesting thing with boxing is because the target range and the allowed space to hit is so small, you get a real specialist in that. And I think that's what Chidoba does when you take it to other grappling arts, is the gripping where you go is so small and so specialized and from different angles. When they go to other places, and many of those angles look like they're in a bad position. For example, let's say take the Haribeli, or the, as Vlad would call it, the Georgian grip. A lot of people, before they knew that from traditional judo, they would say, what is this? It looks like he's going over. And the next thing you know, boom, they throw. It's almost kind of like what you saw in the Mongolia and Unchimata, the front Uchimata, when they were doing it. But, and by the way, Chidobu will have that as well. But I think that's what Merab is in. I see it because I'm around a lot of Georgians, and I've wrestled Georgians, I've fought Georgians, I've got my butt kicked by Georgians, and after, wined and dined with them. But I think that it's a different animal, and when you come into the UFC, he has a lot of all the Caucasians have that mentality, that go-getter mentality. They don't really. It's not about winning or losing. It's about dying on the mat, And I think this is what it is. But that's my 2 cents. Sorry for taking your time, boys.
No, it's very,
That was
very
fantastic.
curious. What is it about the cardio? I don't know if it's just Merab or with your experience with other Georgians. Merab has a gas tank that you just don't see. And if I was a betting man, which I'm not, to me, that if you just think of it in terms of chemically enhanced, and I'm not saying he is, that looks just like somebody that's just on EPO, right? And I'm not saying he is. I don't think he is. But that level of cardio and endurance, where you're going from round 1 to round 5, and your gas tank is exactly the same, and you're smiling and laughing to the last second of the fight. And Sandhagen is no slouch. That dude's a stud.
He's a stud.
He's a stud. Okay. There's something in there, because you'll see other guys train and train hard, and after the first round, they're toast, right? After the second round, they're exhausted. Merab, from the start to finish, he does not let off the gas pedal, and there's no variation in terms of his ability to breathe and manage stress. So is that a Georgian thing or is that a Marab thing?
Okay, I think there is an element that we have to say. Marab definitely genetically is gifted. Okay. But here, this is what I believe. These guys in Georgia and the Caucasian Mountains, since they're kids, they've been running in the mountains for cardio.
And living in high elevation too at times.
Yes. Even their camps, like if you went to the Georgia national wrestling team, when they do a real camp, they're going to go into the mountains because they know that it produces better cardio there. I believe genetically, and obviously Georgians, you also have different, in Georgian, a lot of the guys have the last name Shvili, which means son of. You also have Adze. Okay. Adze usually, and if I'm wrong, please put in the comments and we'll get this discussion going. But Adze generally is a little bit different area. It's a very hardcore from what my friends have told me. Christian name, although Shvili is also, don't get me wrong. But Adze is generally from a little different area. And they must have different pockets. This is what my theory always been. But let's take a different thing. If you go to Kenya has got great running. Okay, these guys can run forever. And they win a lot, if not everything. But they also have a lot of elevation where they live. And if you take generations and generations and generations of people, they become better adapted to that type of cardio. Now, I think in Georgian's case, I think a lot of these guys have that. It's strength and cardio. You're talking about 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 years that because Georgians aren't called, they're called Kartvelian, right? The Kartvelians have this over years and years, and then they procreate with other people. For those who don't know that, basically have kids, and they go and they have more kids, etc. But that's the underlying. But I think the main things are two. The Georgian mentality that he built was from his childhood that most Georgian kids have when they go into judo there, because there's no easy days wrestling. There's no mom, my feelings are hurt because Stanislav threw me, although there's not a lot of Stanislavs in Georgia. And I think this with mentality and the fact that over years and over years, he just understood how to push his body. I bet you if you opened up his chest, I bet you his heart has developed like no tomorrow over those years of training. But I think it comes from that youth. And you can see this. There's some very famous, what's the name? There's a very famous Georgian wrestling school for youth, for Greco-Roman, okay? And everyone's like, oh, look at these kids train. It's a Georgian system. It's not even a Georgian system. It's how they train as a people. They train hard. But they also rest in a very smart way. They eat well, they sleep well, all this together. But I think the fact is that he's been training like this since a kid. He's been developing. He's understood, even if he doesn't know, he understands you can never let the gas tank out. Then he comes to the UFC. Or let's say the UFC. He comes to Sarah Longo. There was an interesting thing when John Danaher took Merab with Matt Serra for Georgian food. I think it was Georgian. And of course, Matt Serra, he's an Italian guy. He's got to be like, oh, what is this? Oh, And Merab, but it's funny how from there going up, Merab never took it to heart. He understood he had a goal. And then he goes, and I would imagine when he goes to do jiu-jitsu with people, at first, probably technically he noticed on the ground there was a lot he had to learn. But he also noticed that through himself being the animal that he is on the ground with his cardio and conditioning, which for sure he had being in the Sambo World Championships, for sure he had being a high-level judoka in Georgia. He saw the crossover there and he's like, I'm never letting this go. I'm never letting this go. And just as we say in this podcast, and I am a jiu-jitero, but he never ever fell for the seductive nature of the guard. He never ever says, listen, it's time to pull guard. Everything for that guy is scrambling out. Everything and getting on top and dominating. You know why? Because that's what they do. He's an Ovarchka. a Caucasian Shepherd, maybe a mini Caucasian Shepherd. Sorry. I'll give the big Caucasian Shepherd to some other guys. Geno Petrashvili, he's the big one for freestyle wrestling, Olympic champion. Amazing person. But that relentlessness is there. And it's not just as he fights, I bet it's in this training. And I bet you there is some genetic, I would guess there's some genetic adaptation that's happened over thousands of years in him. I would definitely think training in the mountains for so long, or at least in an elevated area of the world. I think the Georgian judo system, which is based upon a lot of Shiraum, and I'm going to get a lot of heat on that, but I think people who really know will agree. And I think all this together, it makes it look like APO. And then again, maybe it is EPO, but I don't think it is. I think it's there, and I think it's here, man. I think he's got that old school mentality that you, Val, and Tibbetts have, so I think this is where he gets it.
Yeah, it was very interesting. And, you brought something up that if I was going to analyze or make a suggestion to him, and I'm no person to make a suggestion, but the one adjustment I would have made in that fight was to not move so linearly. I think he could have finished Sandhagen had he not moved so linearly, cut more angles, and attacked the body more, not swinging for the head every 5 seconds. Because Sandhagen's like a foot taller than him. I'm not saying that to be mean.
It was very
anything,
noticeable, wasn't it? It
right?
was very noticeable. Yeah.
Very noticeable. When you have that big of a height difference and reach difference, and you're just running forward, trying to, wing punches at the head, I don't think it's the wisest. I understand the enthusiasm because he's like, I'm going to knock this guy out. The same thing. I don't think it was wise. I think given the height proportion and his speed and his ability, had he stepped off more, cut some more angles, and just started whacking the body, I think he actually would have been able to finish Sandhagen. I really do. Because his go behinds are like, it was super easy. I mean, he's hitting a go behind Adam what? Like every 5 seconds, go behind, mat return, go behind, mat return, go behind, mat. I mean, we're seeing a pattern here, right? In terms of how, like, the ability to dominate. But I really do believe that had he cut more angles, it would have been a finish. Because he was there, but hitting that linear, just being so linear and just trying to attack the head, I don't think was the best decision.
Yeah, he was linear. He was linear, and he was very much focused on imposing his grappling on Sandhagen. But Sandhagen, he impressed me with his wrestling ability. Was quite surprising at how he made tactical adjustments, especially with his bumper defense and then walking towards the cage and facing the cage. He did a lot of great things with respect to his wrestling, but I think you're right, Adam. If Marab would have angled more and focused on body attacks, he certainly could have got him out of there. For sure. I thought he was gone at first, but
I think also, like, you sort of one of the, I guess, things that would need to be considered here is that Sambo is very straight, linear type attacks. Yeah, their boxing is not, their hand strikes and stuff in combat Sambo, it's very linear for the headbutts and stuff as well. Yeah, they want to use the hands, pop in, grab the jack, throw the headbutts. It's very, very linear in that sense. It's not like boxing where we'll step off and pivot around and hit the body and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. Yeah. We'll grab the jacket.
That's a good point.
Yeah, I need to knee the body, headbutt, takedown, ground and pound. So if he's done a lot of Sambo training for his combat Sambo, which he would have done to get to the Worlds, okay, it's not like he just rocked up and said, I'm going to enter the World Championships for Georgia and take on the Russian champion and win a silver medal. He would have to learn that skill set, and he did. It's well known that he trains judo and sambo for self-defense as a child after the Georgian wrestling, and that is a very, I mean, you look to Fedor, that sending punch where he just runs forward throwing punches. Yeah, go back to every old feeder one. Every time you throw that sending punch, it's what they call it in Sambo, a sending punch, where they're running forward and throwing punches. Yeah, it's the same type situation here without the run. It's very combat Sambo, that style of attack. I'll throw punches, and again, it comes down to the whole kutka, the jacket, boom, boom, throw punches, grab the jacket, headbutt, takedown. Yeah, and then they work the ground. So I guess could be something that's ingrained in him. You know, I guess as he evolves as an MMA fighter, he may do more Western boxing. He may learn how to cut angles more. And that also goes to show that he's not a freestyle wrestler. Yeah, because freestyle wrestling, as a freestyle wrestler, I can tell you it's all about cutting an angle. It's about head control. It's about breaking the opponent's active spine and keeping an active spine to take my shots and stuff. And just that definition that he doesn't do it tells you he's not a freestyle wrestler. It's very judo-like, very sambo-like, that straight linear attacks to get to the jacket, get to the grip.
So his statement holds true. He's not a freestyle wrestler, but he's got aspects of wrestling.
Yeah, and that'll come from the sambo, Sambo is very heavily influenced by folk style wrestling. Yeah, from anywhere in the old Soviet bloc. But also freestyle wrestling. Yeah, there's a lot of freestyle double legs, power doubles, all that sort of stuff. They just modify it to fit the Sambo narrative, which is a straight line, get them to the ground, attack them on the ground. And when you change it to combat Sambo, the same principle applies. Straight line, flurry of punches, grab, headbutt, takedown, finish it. And so that's probably ingrained in him a lot, and I think it's part of his evolution as an MMA fighter, or a modern MMA fighter, as opposed to a combat Sambo fighter. A modern MMA fighter, he's going to adapt. He's going to learn, especially like with Longo and stuff, he's going to learn about boxing. He's going to learn and adapt more and start learning some tricks. And once he learns that, he's already unstoppable pretty much. Okay, but once he learns to finish with the hands and stuff like that rather than the grappling, he's going to be another level up again. That's my thoughts anyway. At some point, he will learn that Western style boxing and cutting angles and stepping off, pivoting, attacking the body, and start moving away from that combat Sambo attack, get him down.
Yeah, I look at it like this also, because you guys all make excellent points. It says right now he's at a 14-fight win streak. The biggest win streak, the longest win streak in UFC history is Anderson Silva at 16. How he's performing now, just with the skill set that he has, I see him very quickly surpassing Anderson Silva's 16-fight win streak. Okay, because he said he wants to fight in December.
I agree.
Which is like right around the corner. He's just like, I want to fight in December. I'm ready to go. He's psychotic. I'm all for it. I'm down. But then you start to look at who's next in line. He's just going to be lapping dudes. He's going to fight Peter Yan again. He's going to fight O'Malley again. This is like, come on. What other challenges are out there? When he starts to, like you're saying, Adam, when he starts to add some of these other techniques and just variations, it's not like he's doing anything wrong. So I don't want it to sound like I'm saying that he did something wrong. Not at all. I'm just saying, like, how much more dominant could this guy be if he just adds a little bit of this variation to what he's doing? Right? Because the one thing that ends up happening, I'm just looking at this from a coaching perspective, there's going to be guys coming up, when they study him, they're going to see that it's a bit predictable. Linear, he's coming in linear, right? He's throwing a certain striking combination. He wraps that single leg. He's doing the same thing over and over and over again, right? So in order for him to maximize his dominance, he needs to add the variation. He has to, so he can't be so readable, right? And predictable in the sense that, if you have a mindset of, oh, I want to fight Merab, and you're there at the top 5, top 6, let's say top 10, you better be training for what he's doing now, right? If you're taller, you better make sure you understand your proper level change to make sure you're there, right? You better cut your angles so that he can't be so linear on you. You got to press forward and cut angles, press forward, cut angles, press forward, cut angles, make him backpedal, right? Cut him, put him against the cage. You got to do those little things. You know, I also look back to when Merab fought Henry Cejudo. What a one-sided ass kicking that was.
That was a surprise too. I
Right?
did not expect that.
Gold medal versus a gold medalist. That was a one-sided ass beating. It wasn't even close.
It was an eye-opening for MMA too. An absolute eye-opening.
Yeah, the only thing is, Henry Cejudo, while he is a gold medalist wrestler, that's where you start and stop. There isn't anything else, right? There really isn't anything else outside of that. He's definitely not a submission specialist.
I agree.
I wouldn't put him in the category of being a dangerous striker.
Mm-hmm.
You know, outside of the wrestling, really, what does he have? And in fact, he's relied on that, and you know that's his claim to fame. That's his whole marketing program. But here's the thing, though. While the U.S. has a pipeline and infrastructure around wrestling, when you get into the Caucasus areas, they may not have a pipeline or infrastructure. They have culture, warrior culture, and they have birthright conscription, meaning as soon as they are born as boys, there is an expectation. And so imagine being in a culture where the focus is on that traditionalism. Your masculinity is expressed through these combat arts, and all of a sudden an opportunity like the UFC comes along. Guess what? These guys are already practiced and experienced with war. They're ready. And so the small adjustments or the adjustments they have to make, you're just studying their last fight. But that may not be the person you're going to face when you get in there. And what's really scary about Merab is that you can see him evolving. And I still think he has room to grow. That's what's scary.
Yeah.
I think he has room to grow. And that's what's scary.
And you know, to your point, Val, he's eager to grow.
Yes.
That is a huge mindset win.
Yeah.
That a lot of guys, when they get to the top, they don't have.
Yep.
Yeah.
His humility and his desire to grow, as he even says in the interviews, I'm learning so much, I'm keep learning this and that and the other thing. That's invaluable. The willingness to learn, the willingness to continue to develop, and that whatever God-given cardio that he has, which fucking scares me.
Yeah.
Right? Because I'm like, I'm a lot taller than that guy. I wouldn't be able to get that flea off me to save my life. You know, it'd be
like a body
fun.
take.
I'd love to
It's like a body
wrestle
take.
him just to see how badly he would maul me. I would like to see if I could get up once. I don't think I'd be able to, but nevertheless, you know, I'm a nut that way. I'd be like, fuck it, let's go.
Actually, I
I just
had
want
one
to
of
see.
my.
I'd like to get on there just for like an hour and see like
For sure.
how bad does he just fuck me up in the course of
I
an
had
hour?
one of my world youth athletes trained with Merab actually, and the one thing she said was his pace was unreal, and she said the whole time while she was there, folks were like sweating. He was jumping around, dancing, laughing, and smiling. So that is all to say that what you see in the cage is what he is before he gets to the cage.
Oh yeah.
And I can't help but looking at this from a combat perspective, he lacks submission skills. They're not as sharp. And so, you know how when you have a particular skill set, you have what you call as your fighter toolbox, right? And you say, all right, I have this project, which is this person in front of me, and I need to use the right tool. Well, if you can't quite figure out how to use a tool or you're imprecise with a tool, you got to go to something else. And I wonder how much of his cardio is compensating for his submission skills not being as precise. I wonder about that. Because guys who are very, very sharp in submissions, you don't also see them being as equally strong cardio-wise, right? Unless they're usually unique, because the submissions compensate for you not having the cardio. So you want to get the guy out of there, control him, etc. So I wonder how much of his evolution will take place in the submission realm and what that will do to the cardio and how that will change it when he adds more dynamic striking. What will that do to the cardio? Because all those have cardio demands, but they change your output. They change when you do something. So I'm curious to see how he evolves.
Yeah, for me, I think there was two things in that fight. Like, obviously, there's amazing things, but we also have to talk about the worrying things. The first thing is I was really surprised how well Corey did. I didn't expect him to do so well or last so long. Now, some people say, but he didn't do well. I'm like, man, he lasted 5 rounds. Okay, let's get that there.
And he was in the fight. He was in the fight.
And he always tried. Yeah. We talked about Merab being relentless. Well, Corey had the heart. Definitely heart was there. He was always fighting back. He had some good kicks. He had that time when he tried to Granby roll out of something. He caught in a weird position.
Yeah, he did a funk escape.
Someone said, "What is he doing now?" I said, "Actually, that's actually what he's supposed to do. Doesn't look great, but sometimes it's not supposed to look great. It's supposed to work." And I think the last thing that worries me is, Brian, you said something that is there. I think if you would take a video analysis of Khabib or a video analysis of John Jones, or let's even take Yuri, who fought right before. Okay, I can never say his name, but he's the samurai, the Czech samurai, Prochaska.
Oh yeah, that guy.
They are a little bit. It is hard to understand their game for the next fight. Now, I think Merab has got to work on some new stuff, because there will be a time where someone who can't beat him with the relentlessness or the gas tank that he has will understand that he might have to break, not with the sword, but he's going to need to beat him with a pen, with a technique, with a game plan. And I think Longo's got to work on that. It's also Sarah. And I think part of it is definitely going to have to be the submission game.
Yeah.
I think there were several times he could have finished. Maybe catch would be really good there, because there were positions that were perfectly. It's like a sniper doesn't have to aim. It's just pull the trigger. I think the angling on the boxing, I think that definitely has to be there. Even if he doesn't use it, but to have that as an option, because if he goes against someone who's a really good submission expert, who has maybe, because there's a lot of guys in the world, man, and we don't know all the guys out there, and there's maybe some guy comes who Merab can't dominate in the clinch, and then all of a sudden he has to rely on something. He needs options, and it just doesn't seem, due to his gas tank, that they're developing that. It's almost like it's a hot rod race, and they know that they're like a Vin Diesel. I live my life 1 mile at a time, and for those 10 seconds I'm free. Like Vin Diesel's basically, no one's beating him, and I'm saying, okay, great, but how would if they change? If the guy figures out, let's change the track, let's change the racetrack, and that's what I'd say. And the thing that got me thinking is just Corey Sandhagen, like, a lot of people are going to say, "Oh, he didn't destroy Corey.
No.
He did show a lot of relentless, and it definitely, I'm sure, it was surprised. But I was actually very impressed by Corey. But this podcast, for example, we can't. The great thing with this podcast is we're not yes men. None of us four, and you can't be just saying relentless. And I hope he's not surrounded by those yes men, because I think he's got to work exactly what Val said, what you say. He's got to, because he's going to get maybe there's a new Greg Jackson out there who's got that one fighter, and he goes, I know how to beat this guy, and you got the tools to do it.
It only takes one guy. Takes one guy.
And fighting, it's an equation. There isn't a perfect fighter. You have a near perfect fighter, but there's always some way. There's always some way to enter. There's always some way to figure it out. If it's physicality that we see in Ramrab's case that he's using a lot, sure. If it's strategy, that's another one. If it's tactics, if it's gameplay, so that's what I would say to Marab. Did any of you guys see the Yuri fight, by the way, with Roundtree?
Yeah, we did. I will say this. The thing is,
that was tough.
So Roundtree is shorter for the division.
Yeah.
But he's an outside fighter. He's good at fighting on the outside. When he gets mid-range, he has problems. And even though he has skills in Muay Thai, he's not good mid-range, and then he's not good at backing out of mid-range and reestablishing long range. And so the first round, Prochazka was literally moving and grooving. I mean, he was getting hit with stuff and getting frustrated. But I think at some point he figured out that while he was the taller, longer guy, he could beat Roundtree mid to close range. And anytime you see someone get to that mid range with Roundtree, they can touch his body, they can hit him over the top. He's trying to escape. His punching, his striking is not effective in that range, which is quite unusual being a Muay Thai practitioner, right? I didn't expect him to go lights out, but he certainly was in danger as soon as Prochazka closed the distance. He was in danger, and he wasn't getting out of there because, Roundtree is a warrior, and he wants to stay in the exchange. I don't know what his corner, if you look at his previous fights, anytime you're in an exchange, a lot of times that's when he starts to get hurt and he starts to wear down and his gas tank drops, right? I don't know why he stayed in there, but I don't think his corner had a strategy to deal with Prochazka's getting close. I think they thought that he was going to be able to keep him on the outside and just touch him and go. That's not how it played out.
Do you think sorry, Brian, do you think the fact that Yuri is such a unorthodox fighter, like he's so hard to read, like
that's the same thing I was going to say.
Yeah, that's what got me. And because I love Khalil Roundtree. I think this guy is scary. He's got power. Like
tough as nails.
Yeah, I like, when I think tough, I think Khalil. But I just saw Yuri doing this I'm like, what is going on here? Is it like capoeira?
It definitely wasn't that, but I think his unorthodoxy distracts a person who has gaps in their ranging. If you can fight long range, mid range, close, grapple, right? If you are proficient at each of these ranges, it doesn't matter how that guy is moving. You can initiate, you can neutralize, and you can control. That the movement that Prochazka was using, I think it was really to test the offense of Roundtree. And once he got to mid-range and he saw that Roundtree wasn't even really throwing anything effective, that's the range you beat a guy in. He wasn't even extending his punches all the way. I mean, he was just touching him, you know? So, I mean, when I used to box, I boxed on the outside, right? People in my division were taller, but I fought on the outside because it was a competitive advantage because people thought I was going to fight close, but I could fight close, but I fought on the outside. And then when I met a guy who was about 6'1" in my division, at this time I was 141, he fought on the inside and he was tearing my ass up. And a tall guy that can fight you like y'all the same height, that's a nightmare. So, Khalil, trust me, I feel you. It sucked. Okay? So, it's just, to me, that fight came down to ranging. It came down to ranging. And I just think that Khalil needs to go back to the drawing board and really become more proficient at the mid-range and in close, and then transitioning to grappling or clinch work and all that.
I mean, I didn't watch that fight. I didn't get an opportunity to watch that fight. But, I mean, standard fight practice. If I'm getting pieced up on the outside, I work inside. If I'm getting pieced up on the inside, I work outside. You work opposite
And he
ranges.
didn't do that. Yeah, he didn't do that.
I didn't see it, so I can't say. But listening to what you guys are saying, quite obviously, if he's in that mid-range and still can't do anything, then if I'm Yuri and he's piecing me up outside, I'm just walking forward.
Yes.
Put the hands up and just walk forward. As soon as I close that range,
Yes.
that advantage disappears.
Exactly. And that's exactly what I mean. It just seems as though the proficiency at each range and then adapting to the offensive decisions of your opponent, it wasn't there. It just wasn't there. And, Khalil has the bad habit of once you're piecing him up and he backs up against the cage, he stands straight up against the cage. He stands straight up. And every single time he gets backed up against the cage and he stands straight up, it's like he gets the tunnel vision. He looks right at you. And then next thing you know, he starts getting fed knuckle sandwiches. And then good night.
It's interesting.
So,
I got to agree. And it's quite interesting because Chama, Alex, he kind of, in a way, did that too. He had a good game plan. Like, once again, what this UFC definitely, if there was one, the one thing of this UFC, if there was a lesson for an aspiring fighter, it would be own the position of the ring. Own it, own the pressure. Because Chama, the big difference, obviously, if we're talking about different fight, if it's Alex Poatan. But he came in, he said, I'm not going to be reactive, it's going to be proactive, I'm going to own this. And he owned that fight and got him. But what you said about Roundtree, yeah, that's definitely exactly what happened. He went against that, he went up, and then you saw at the end when Yuri was hitting with the body shots, just pop, 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 pop. I was just like, okay, there's a lot to. This was a UFC to analyze. There's no doubt. This is the one to analyze. What do you guys think of the Chama fight?
Let me tell you.
Your eyebrows were bouncing. I said, he's got a lot to say about that.
I want to hear Brian's.
I've said it before, and I'll say it again, and I know I sound like a dumbass for saying this. I need to fly out to Connecticut. I want to go a couple rounds with him. I just want to feel it. I need to see for myself his footwork, his hip switches, all his twitching, the way he feints is such a thing of beauty. It's orgasmic for me. Okay? Like as a striker, as a natural striker, when I watch what he does, his setups are like, it's like I'm just in the best candy store in the world and I am just watching it. Like people are just watching his hands. It's like, fuck his hands. Watch what he just did with his hips. Watch his little two-step he did. Watch how he subtly moves that angle. And his focus and the way he's just reading it. Oh my God. For one, it tells me this: that last fight he had with Ankalaev, right, the first one, people were saying he was sick. He had rotavirus or something before that fight, and it didn't look like him. There was something. It was not him, right? Because that fight, the fight we just saw, that was him. And he's like, yeah, see, I told you so. That wasn't me. This is me. Here you go. You're not in my league. Period. Oh, yeah. End of story.
I agree.
This is, and like you were saying, Grapplezilla, if there is a UFC card for somebody who is an aspiring fighter to take notes and to study different fights and to study the fighters and nuances, holy shit, you better fucking take out a couple of notebooks and watch. And when I say stop just looking at his hands, watch his hips, watch his feet in terms of how he's setting things up. It is beautiful. It is a thing of beauty. It is a thing of beauty. And you don't know unless you know. That's what I can say. Unless you've been a striker, unless you've put the hours in striking to know what you were watching, you're not understanding the artwork of what he did, that dismantling, that one-sided dismantling.
I think his opponent made a mistake, which was thinking that he could relax in the second fight. If you look at the first fight, he gave Chama respect, and therefore he moved. He was moving, circling, making micro steps, getting angles, and naturally with Chama's kickboxing background, he doesn't want you to get angles, so he has to turn. But he's not good at turning. So when you turn him, he senses the danger and he has to back up because he's better at lineal range, right? Once he can come forward and go backwards, or he does what we used to do in kickboxing, which is called boxing the guy in. We're here with our hands and then we open up. We open up and we box you in. If you go left, we're going to touch it back this way. If you go right, we're going to set you up this way. And we can shift our hips and adjust our level to make you really confused. So he uses the box theory. And if you don't come from striking, you don't see that. You don't know what that is.
Right.
And a lot of guys in modern MMA who may not have a kickboxing pedigree, they don't really train for that. And so obviously in MMA, you're worried about hands, elbows, knees, feet, and takedown, right? So when you're starting to box out like this, it looks like any and everything is happening all at once. This is what you see. So what does it look like? It looks like everything. So the only way for you to be in the fight is to become gun shy and move, but you don't realize you're moving into the position where he wants to deliver the shot. Okay? So his opponent, however, I think didn't give the same level of respect because he had beat him. He didn't give him the same level of respect that he gave him in the first fight. He should have just fought him in the middle of the ring and moved, circled him, and tried to back him up. But Chama has something to prove. Chama has something to prove. And it's called, when you look at it, it's called the heavyweight curse. The heavyweight curse is that it doesn't matter how technical you are. It doesn't matter how many punches you can throw. How many shots does it take from a heavyweight to knock out another heavyweight?
One
tap.
Yeah. One tap, okay? And if you get a heavyweight on the back foot, which he got him on the back leg. He slipped over. He was on the back leg. Physics just were in his favor. The strike was set up perfectly. His equilibrium was off. the guy didn't know how to finish the shot. He'd know he went down, but he really didn't know where he was. He was just hugging his legs. And after that, it was 12-6 elbow mania.
I'm so glad they let that back in. I'm so glad.
It makes a huge difference. It makes a huge difference.
Huge, man.
Yeah.
So
That was a thing of beauty.
From what I saw of that fight, and I watched, all 90 seconds of it. I think I would probably go the opposite way to you, Val. If anything,
Okay.
I think you gave him too much respect. Yeah, because any time Powhatan moved, Ankalaev was backing up. He didn't want none of that smoke, as you say. That's what it looked like to me. Yeah, and he's backing up, and you see in that where he gets knocked out, he backs up and he sticks his jab out like a feeler, and as soon as he does it, boom, overhand right, just comes straight over the top of it, clams you straight on the chin. Yeah, like exactly what's supposed to happen. But the fact that
I hear you.
Ankalaev was back, and trying to keep a hand out here to keep him away, it's like it was just too much respect. And I think, maybe if he'd gone, you know what, I've beaten this guy before by moving forward and putting him on the back foot, maybe if I do some of that, it'll relieve some of that pressure. The best defense is a good offense. We know this. Somebody punches you, punch him back twice.
Yeah, the 1-2. That's the 1-2. That's the real 1-2.
Yeah, and that whole backing up and doing this business, you're going to get hit. And as you say, those boys, they only need one.
They only need one. I mean, you can throw 100 punches on the bag, 1,000 on the pad. You in there with a heavyweight, it might just be a jab, and you're like, so how long was the fight? 90 seconds. Heavyweights, man. It goes. That's how it goes.
And a big thing I think too is I see it quite a bit, and I don't know whether it's an MMA thing or what, but I see that non-retracting of the punch.
Yeah,
or dropping it down here, dropping it down here, whether they're looking to set up a takedown or whatever it is. They need to bring that boxing shit tight, because you can still shoot from here. Part of the problem that I see a lot, I guess it's and this is just my 2 bobs worth in Australia. Who cares? But I sort of sit there and go, even as a freestyle wrestling coach, I can shoot from here. The problem that I see is that this MMA wrestling, people shoot with their head and shoulders rather than their hips.
Yes.
I can keep my hands here, change levels, and still shoot with my hips and and it's quicker than doing this whole dive for it. So why do I need to do this and try and reach for legs?
They're doing more leg dives than anything.
Yeah.
They're doing more leg dives
for sure.
They're not shooting. And so if you just got these boxers and taught them to change levels, shoot forward with their hands here, they're going to get doubles quicker and shots and be faster, more effective than this whole 45-degree angle, stick my head and shoot with my head and shoulders.
It's more energy efficient as well.
Way more energy efficient, faster, and a much more powerful drive in the shot. This whole bend at the waist, the first thing I teach my wrestlers, if you're doing a shot or a leg attack, we bend at the knees. We never bend at the waist.
Yeah.
Level changes are at the knees, not the waist. We shoot with our hips and our feet. My penetrating step and then my drive with the hips is how I shoot in freestyle wrestling. I don't shoot with my head and shoulders, this whole reaching business. I just don't understand. If they taught them to keep this here, change, shoot, it's going to be much more effective than this. I'm going to dive for it.
Yeah,
and that's
true.
Sort of what happened. This whole business thing just came round the outside, boom, on the chin, good night.
That's a very good observation. It's that modern MMA meta around striking, and a lot of that is a function of, what do you need to be credentialed as an MMA coach? Nothing. And so, what do you need to be credentialed as a striking coach in MMA?
Zip.
Okay. So I've literally had instances where guys who say, hey, I've been trained in striking in MMA, and then they come over to start training boxing. And I watch them move, and they're doing everything completely wrong. and we have to restart them. And within 5 minutes, they're like, my striking coach has fought for 10 years. How come he never taught me this? I'm like, well, a lot of what you have in the MMA striking universe is a result of what has worked against other guys who didn't know specific technical details. So you're going to look great. It's going to work.
But
it don't really work.
Let's add to that point. Yeah, I don't need Zip to be a striking coach. Yeah. I don't need Zip to be an MMA coach. What do I need to be a wrestling coach in MMA? A jiu-jitsu black belt.
Even more like, what the hell is going on? Yeah.
Right there, that's exactly what you're talking about. Yeah, even it makes it's really interesting as an actual wrestling coach. I sit there and I have guys come and go, I wrestled MMA, I've done MMA, so I've done a lot of wrestling. I did all the advanced wrestling classes and that. And I go, okay, so what constitutes an advanced wrestling class? So the wrestling class is a power double, and a single leg dive. Yeah, just wrap around the single leg, lift it up. That's the wrestling class.
That's it.
Yeah,
that's it.
The advanced wrestling class is doing them both together.
Crazy.
Yeah. I mean, you're hitting it on the head. I can say I see this just at gyms in my area where they're a jiu-jitsu gym, and this is going to be controversial, right? They're a jiu-jitsu gym. The people there, maybe one person has wrestled and competed. No more than maybe 2 years of high school wrestling or even middle school wrestling. But for the most part, these, jiu-jitsu organizations are registering as USA Wrestling clubs. People walk in looking for wrestling, and they push them into a jiu-jitsu program. And then they have wrestling 2 nights a week. And it's an hour-long class. It's not a practice. That's a dead giveaway. It's not a practice. It is a class. Okay? And so you'll have wrestling fundamentals, and then you may have like an advanced class that happens on Sunday when no one shows up to the gym, right? And so to your point, Adam, fundamentals is really single leg, double leg, sprawl. Mm-hmm. Single leg, double leg, sprawl. Then advanced is you're chaining the single leg and the double leg, running the pipe. Mm-hmm. That's it. Right? That's it.
Jam it between your legs and turn.
That's it. That's all it is. And then Sunday, they're coming in and they have like their open mat and they're wrestling and moving. You get to MMA, a lot of the fighters that are showing up in MMA are being funneled through these jiu-jitsu organizations. And so you have an entire ecosystem that is effectively creating these technical deficiencies through consistent practice of the deficiencies. And so, you see guys striking and, weird hand positions and all that. And you see a lot of gaps in the wrestling that don't make any sense. But at the end of the day, the entertainment factor is what people are drawn to. But for folks like us, we watch it, we're entertained, but I promise you, we're critiquing every single thing that we see, and justifiably so.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the point, isn't it? It's people are going to critique it. Somebody who's never trained in their life is still going to critique it. They're going to see what they think. Whether they know what they're looking at or not is irrelevant. All of these things are part of the business. It's the fight game, yeah? It's a business.
I wonder how much
jiu-jitsu clubs are going to push this narrative, that we have wrestling as part of our no-gi. Yeah, we have judo. It's part of our gi. It's literally why the jiu-jitsu schools now, you see so many jiu-jitsu schools now are using the Japanese terminology. Yeah, instead of fall away armbar, they say jujigatami. Instead of side sit out, they say kesagatami. They're using the Japanese. They're literally bringing it back to judo. Yet you say to them, well, you're just doing judo anyway.
They say, no, we're not.
Their head explodes. You know what I mean? It's like, I just don't understand. Just like for me, if I want to train an MMA fighter, if I had a guy who was just hard as nails, was a blank canvas, 15, 16 years old, who was going to be anything when he got into his 20s, he was going to be a beast. What am I doing? I'm teaching him wrestling. I'm teaching him jiu-jitsu. No, I'm sending him to a boxing coach.
Yeah.
I'm sending him to a Muay Thai coach. That's all they do, a Muay Thai gym. If there's grappling in it, you're not allowed to go to it. It's a straight Muay Thai gym. I'm sending you to an old school Mickey's Rocky type situation boxing. Go and learn your craft off people who can
don't drink out of the water fountain. Don't even drink out of the water fountain. That's the kind of
craft correctly. You get what I'm saying? Like, if I'm trying to produce a high-level athlete, my job is not to teach them everything. My job is to teach what I know. I get them to go to everybody else to learn what they know. Then my job as an MMA coach is how to blend it together. That's the secret. And anybody who doesn't believe that, that's fine. It's just my opinion. But I look at it and go, my job as a coach is to teach them how to combine all these skill sets they've learned off the best people and go, okay, you've learned to box really great. How do we transition this to wrestling? Easy. Keep your hands here and change levels correctly. That's a big thing for me. I say it all the time. There's no level change. They bend at the waist, not the knees. They don't penetrate a step. And I find a lot of even really good wrestlers wait for somebody to do something in order to take a shot. Yeah, like even Hamza, amazing wrestler. Dominated DDP. He didn't set up a shot himself. Not one. He waited for DDP to overcommit on his punches, change levels, bend at the knee, change levels, shoot in, take the double, go behind. He never actually set anything up himself. He waited for DDP to mess up. Like, let's think about it. If you're trying to be
he gets after it. You're right.
Yeah. If he's trying to be a dominant athlete and impose his will and his game plan, he needs to learn to set him up off the boxing. He needs to learn to set it up off body control against the cage, shoulder roll, push him against the cage, lift his chin up, drop down, take the double leg, pull him on the ground. You got to set stuff up.
Bouncing him, tripping him, everything.
You get what I mean? Yeah. Otherwise, it's just reacting. It's just being reactive. I've got a skill set. I'm falling back on it because he is such a great wrestler. I'll fall back on it. I can get lazy because I know I'll always get it. Every time he attacks, I know how to get it. That's fine and good. But at what point, look, back to your thing earlier, Grapplezilla, about Merab, at what point that you find a guy that standard everyday thing that you do doesn't work on? Yeah, when he comes across that guy, what does he do then? He needs a different skill set. He needs to be able to blend those skill sets in order to continue to dominate the way he's doing now.
Did you guys catch the comment about Dutch kickboxing in the Merab fight?
Yeah.
You know, and most people don't know that. The slap right cross is a Dutch kickboxing technique. You know, or even the double slap to the straight kick to the body. That's that Dutch kickboxing bullshit that we used to hate when we used to have to go up against it in America, right? It's like, did the dude slap me? And your instinct, you get pop, pop. And you're like, what? Ugh, body kick. And you get hit with something. So the fact that they called that out, I was very much appreciative of that because there are so many types of striking methodologies, and I don't think Dutch kickboxing gets the same level of recognition and acknowledgement in the MMA world that it deserves, because a lot of people are doing Dutch kickboxing, but they present it as though it's Muay Thai, right? And it's easy to do that, you know. So I guess at this point, Brian, you gotta create a Dutch kickboxing certification league to, I mean, you know, because I've gone up against Dutch kickboxers before, and you look the same when you're like this, but things are different.
Yeah.
Things are different, and I can definitely recognize the Dutch kickboxing elements in MMA. But now MMA is like its own martial art, but it's almost like a license for guys who are either fraudulent or incompetent just to just come in and do whatever they want, however they want. But then the folks like, you know, like ourselves who understand MMA is a function of being able to combine things in an efficient way that is suited to the athlete to perform at their best. So one athlete's MMA approach could be different than another athlete's approach. And as a coach and as a brain, you got to see, well, which systems, which aspect of the systems link, which anchors do I need to make this seamless for this athlete? You got to put it together. And with the modern MMA world, you're losing a lot of that acknowledgement. And it's getting buried under this term. But I was just happy to see the commentators call out Dutch kickboxing. I think there needs to be more of a study done on Dutch kickboxing because that shit is amazing. I myself am not a Dutch kickboxer. That's Brian's area of expertise. So to the world listening, Brian will probably fuck you up if you piss him off. I mean, you know, I'm just letting you know. So.
And he is open to challenges. Brian is very open to challenges. He loves that shit.
Hey, look, everybody knows the address. You have my phone number. Come on down, sign a waiver.
Yeah.
I don't turn anybody away. The funny thing is you get a lot of people that yap, but when push comes to shove, everybody knows my address. It's right there. I don't say no, just come on down after 6:30. We're good to go. Let's party.
Have a good time.
Available 7 days a week.
Have a good time.
I don't care.
Have a good time.
You know, it's all good. All right. So we learned a lot from this UFC.
This was a great discussion.
Yeah. And I think our collective takeaway is that number one, you have to have strong skill sets, right? But when you have strong skill sets, it's not a quote unquote MMA skill set with a MMA coach that doesn't know what they're doing. Have a skill set developed in different styles so you know you can get somebody that can help you blend it together. Learn how to box from a competent boxing coach. Learn how to kickbox from a competent kickboxer. Kickboxing coach. Learn how to wrestle from excellent wrestling coaches. Not a good wrestling coach, but an excellent wrestling coach, and not a high school wrestling coach, because I see too many of them and it's absolute crap. Somebody that can teach you, like Adam was saying, stop bending from your fucking waist with these damn leg dives. Learn how to level change properly. It is an annoyance. And learn how to understand how to stand up grapple all sections of the body, not just below the waist, but also the torso and above the shoulders. These are three separate, distinct areas of wrestling. Learn how to pivot. Learn how to move on your feet. Learn how to hand fight. Learn how to control the head, right? Get these things down. What it really comes down to, and I think we can all agree, is especially now as we're moving into, as MMA is evolving, people are lacking fundamentals.
Very much
Fundamentals win fights.
Oh, yeah.
Okay? People are lacking fundamentals. You know, you can't be doing this whirly-twirly shit. Stop going in there. Stop going to a place where they're making you hit pads and they go, you're ready, you're ready. Oh, you look awesome, you're ready. And you don't have a coach criticizing your footwork. Back in the day, even when I'm teaching judo and I have everybody on the wall doing drills on the wall, they go, okay, yeah, I'm done after like 2 minutes. I'm like, dude, Guys, my practice was an hour of this. I'm doing 1,000 of these foot sweeps before I'm touching a human body. You guys are fucking off after 5 minutes. Okay? If you don't know, when my striking came down to I'm up and down the mat, moving my feet, shuffling my feet, pivoting, that was my striking practice while holding my hands up. It wasn't, oh, let's go over here and hit pads. Okay, you're ready for a fight. The fuck I am. Fundamentals wins fights. You must learn fundamentals in specific disciplines before you can put it together.
That's true.
Right? I think we can all agree on that.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Okay. And this particular UFC card was great for learning to take notes on guys that have really great fundamentals in different styles. Focus on the fundamentals. Don't focus on what was flashy. Flash doesn't win fights. Flash is just that. Yeah, it's spectacular, but it's completely fucking random. You have to know how to hold your hands up.
Yeah.
You know, Adam said it perfectly. You have to know how to bring your hands back into position. You have to know how to level change from your knees. Not bending over, I call it the Baptist dip. This fucking bending over shit. It's just, I'm sorry. It doesn't work. And people get weird on me when I say that at clinics and stuff. I'm like, you guys got to stop this shit. I go, you keep doing that, I'm going to club you so hard and snap you to where you're going to think your neck is broken. You need to stop. And they don't know until they feel it. I go, try that shit with me. What? Let me show you what's going to happen. Let me show you the repercussions of your poor fundamentals. And then they all go flying. And they go, oh, I don't get it. You don't get it because you're not practicing the right way. Practice your damn fundamentals. That is the key takeaway.
You heard what he
Practice
said.
your fundamentals.
You heard what he
Absolutely.
said.
That's it. I mean, back in the day, I think, and here's the thing, where the four of us benefited, which they don't necessarily get today. We all benefited that we were because, number one, the internet didn't exist. YouTube didn't exist. And there was no such thing as an MMA gym when we were all coming up. If I wanted to learn boxing, I learned boxing in South Central Los Angeles. Okay? It was $10 a month. I learned boxing in South Central Los Angeles with, these guys that's all it was. It stunk. It was a sweaty gym, looked like a Rocky gym. That's where I learned my boxing. I learned my Dutch style from Dutch kickboxing phenoms. Bas Rutten, primarily Rob Kamen. The hours I spent with Rob Kamen and my footwork was more than sparring, was more than hitting pads. I don't think, when I was with Rob Kamen, I don't think I hit pads at all.
We didn't hit pads like that back in the day.
In 4 years of Rob Kamen, I don't think I more than a handful of times.
That was a new thing.
So much time
Sparring
with my footwork, my pivoting, how I'm setting up, how I'm reading punches, how I'm reading strikes, how I'm reading combinations, stepping off and countering and doing whatever, right? I learned my wrestling from the Iranians, right? I learned my jiu-jitsu from fucking Higan Machado, from fucking Chris Howder, from Eric Polk. So, to Adam's point, you have to spend the time learning your fundamentals of each art independently.
Yes.
And then you have to have a wise MMA coach that can teach you how to put it together for MMA.
Yeah.
Because that is a separate skill.
Very much so.
You cannot go to an MMA gym and be like, oh, Bob Smith is my boxing coach because he's some MMA fighter turned boxing coach. No, he's not a boxing coach. Spend the time. Go find the danky-ass, nastiest boxing gym you can find where all they're doing is boxing drills for hours upon hours.
Well, there's
hours.
equipment. There are equipment, requirements too that help to sharpen attributes. If you go to MMA gym, you don't see everything. You see heavy bags. You might see an uppercut bag, but I'm not going to give it away and say all the other things you need to train boxing. I'm not going to do that. But there's other things you need. To your point,
Yeah. So at the end of the day, study, learn, but don't. You guys have not us, but you listeners need to focus on studying specifics with that particular style, with a coach that knows how to teach you the fundamentals of that style inside and out. Don't look for the flash, look for the fundamentals. Look at somebody that is going to beat your ass with fundamentals in that style. Mm-hmm. That's what's going to make you a champion. Period. End of story. All right, this was good, gentlemen. I think we've said our piece, and we'll end it on that. And with that, we are out of here.